Hello everyone and welcome to this call centre helper interview looking at our 2024 research findings. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Martin Hill-Wilson at Brainfood Consulting, and together we're going to be talking about the biggest barriers to AI adoption right now. So Martin, are you surprised to see cost and security concerns so high on the list?
No, I don't think so. In fact, interesting results because they do certainly parallel many of the other ones that I've seen. You know, people like Gartner, and then the big consultancies, the Deloittes, the Accentures, McKinsey's. There's a common theme at the moment that's going on, and I think that's probably a question relating to AI deployment generally, of the generative AI type, in other words, the latest generation of it all. But it's enterprise-wide, the perspective. That said, call centers are absolutely a top use case. But within that context, what they're saying is a lot of experimentation, which is encouraging, but it's been difficult to then take it into what they call production. In other words, roll it out. And there are a number of good reasons for that, which again, I can see actually on your list. Probably the top one I've read is they don't quite know which is the best one to go with. I think in
Would
some
you say
respects,
that's then feeding into that lack of clear use cases and ROI?
yeah. I think sometimes, and it might not just be the contact center, it might be we've experimented with everything. We've tried it in, your domain of marketing. We've tried it a bit in, middle office. We've tried it a bit possibly even in manufacturing, all over the place, and we don't quite know where to start. So I think that's a problem, taking it from proof of concept to necessarily into the environment. Now, I think part of that is another aspect there, which is where's the ROI and where's the proof of the pudding? Is this a technology looking for a solution or t'other way around? So I think there's still a bit of that sort of going on. I would imagine that will clear itself over time, but right now that is undoubtedly the logjam that most people are talking about. I think the other thing that they're recognizing is that if they step back, there's a general sense, guess what, of not being ready. And certainly I've been talking about this, and I can see other people beginning now to focus strongly, the problem of AI readiness. So classic Gartner type stuff, which is always right, by the way, which is we all get super excited and then we zoom into what's called the trough of disillusionment, and then we sober up and then we work out what we're going to do, and then eventually it works. And that can take a couple of years. So I think we're at the top of the, oh, it's exciting. No, it's not. Oh, God, it's not. Oh, it's the same old, same old. And I think some of us are going down that slope as we speak, as we sober up and we take a look around and we go, oh, gosh, we're really not ready. Now, and I think there's lots of aspects to readiness. I think cost, which has been highlighted there, comes up probably as a very easy to communicate barrier in the first instance, where people have gone, it's great. How much does it cost? Oh, wow. Oh, really? Oh, no. And generally speaking, cost is always a consideration until you've really proven that it's better and you do get a return, because it now gets smarter, quicker, faster, whatever the criteria is. But generative AI has got significant cost because the large language models consume vast amounts of computer power and cooling and resources and everything else. And the very, very largest vendors obviously are absorbing a lot of that. Google, Microsoft, they run it on their own cloud and they package that up into services that organizations, or indeed vendors, and in our case, by the way, none of the vendors in the call center run their own language models. They're still running them off of, the big people's language models, and they're building new versions of what? Routing, triage, agent assist, chatbots, all the one, summarization, all the ones that we're kind of going, yeah, these are great use cases. And there's a cost associated with all of that. Now, some of that's been kind of masked at the moment, but as people start to do the numbers, it's very similar to the conversation about the cloud, which originally everyone, yay, much better, much better, much better. And then there was another set of voices that came through a little bit later going, actually, I know we don't have to spend money up front, but it gets to be rather expensive on an ongoing basis. It's not actually cheaper. So then cost as an absolute top benefit starts to disappear against in the cloud's case, flexibility, and the other things that make cloud great. And at the moment, the cost of an LLM generation, whilst the models are as big as they are, is expensive. So I've seen the question raised and I have not seen the answer. But whilst we all get terribly excited about summarizing conversations and popping them automatically into CRM, is that fully costed at the moment by the vendors who are selling it? Or are they trying to tempt us into the habit and are footing the bill, and it will kind of get more expensive over time? And it does raise the question, oh, it's a nice, neat trick, everyone benefits, but maybe it's still cheaper to do it the old-fashioned way. So I think cost in that respect is expensive. And if indeed your existing solution hasn't got it as, hey, this is now part and parcel of what you buy from us, then if you're thinking about it as a separate solution, obviously it will then look much more expensive. And as we were saying just before we came onto the conversation, if it's true that most of us are still on-prem as far as our contact center technology is concerned, it's highly unlikely, well, it won't be embedded in that at all, because you bought it whenever you bought it. People who buy software as a service will, of course, be seeing that turning up, because that's the latest and the greatest, which is released probably every quarter. And ever since 2022, you'll have been seeing your CCaaS change and adapt and be previewed with AI ready, all the time. And you will have seen all these new services come on. So you may have been tempted to have gone, is this new expense or is this rolled into our existing? And again, the vendors are different on that. Some of them are rolling it up to existing costs. Some of them are starting to do introductory pricing. Some of them are doing full pricing. So again, it's a confusing picture. But I think that is one of the reasons that people are going, I'm not quite sure what the costs are going to be.
And so with this confusion and lack of AI readiness, is there any real surprise that employee resistance to change is factored in there? If they don't know what the clear picture is in the journey, that's then filtering down into uncertainty across the organization?
Well, I think if I'm sitting operationally in the contact center as one of the team, I'm probably not quite so aware of some of those considerations. I think probably what I'm picking up on is more of a broader market perception, which is being played out in social media, mainstream media, and everything, which is AI, is it sentient? Is it not? Is it dangerous? Is it not? I mean, just as a case in point, and I'm not picking up in particular, but OpenAI, since it decides to run the market in terms of, being the Pied Piper on this, they deserve to be criticized both for the great stuff they do, but also some of the downsides. And it's interesting that their chief technology officer yesterday resigned. And that's on top of the whole of their AI safety team have resigned. And prior to that, some of their original founders have resigned, which doesn't give anybody much confidence in what's taking place, given the fact that they're running as fast as they can to what they hope will be the next generation of generative AI, which might even be the level at which everybody gets rather, oh dear, now we've got to that point, So there are certainly genuine concerns about AI as such, particularly generative AI, which I think are played out in the media. And then the other one is, what's the future of work in terms of humans and AI? And there's two camps, obviously. One is that it augments, makes it easier, takes away the drudgery, our life gets better. And I think that's the happy path. That's the path that we're talking about at the moment. But there are always going to be people whose job is to see the world through the lens of doing it faster and cheaper. And AI certainly contributes, as all forms of automation does, to saying if we don't need a person to do that, or a particular task in a job role isn't required any longer, we start to shave that away. There have been some high-profile cases where people have celebrated getting rid of a third of the workforce in a contact center. But actually, if you look at that, that's not a new story, in the sense that even 10 years ago, I knew conversational AI bots that had exactly the same effect. Or when messaging turned up and it got rid of the need for email and all of those things, they're very dramatic headlines, but you go, obviously, if there's a really genuinely easier, smarter way of doing it, we'll do that. So I don't really think the era of AI doing mass displacement is here. In fact, the Financial Times, probably only 4 months ago, did a really smart piece of work saying all the noise for this is coming out of the States. If we then look at the states in terms of unemployment figures, are they going up? Are they going down? No, there's more people employed than not. Is there any indication of people moving to different areas? Because again, the need for new jobs and things like that, no indication whatsoever. And they just ran down all the numbers saying if this was really taking place at scale, we'd see the following, and we haven't seen any of those. So if it is to happen, it's still very much in the future. As a topic, though, it's in the present, and that does percolate down to us going, what does that mean for us in terms of my job? So I think the concern from employees will be around that noise. And then secondly, again, and this is characteristic of any form of change, how well has that change been done with regard to onboarding people, explaining it to them, making them feel safe, making them feel competent, spending the time to get them embedded with it and starting to use it well.
And that'll all come down to individual leaders and their approach, won't it?
Yeah, it's just the quality of the leadership and the quality of the change management. So there's nothing new there. And sometimes people don't know how to do that, or they're just being too rushed to do that. But I think generally speaking, from what I see, when things like the summarization, things like the next generation of bot, agent assist, all those kinds of things have been really positively adopted. I mean, it's the same thing that happened when we had, 7 tabs and we had to move between different systems. And somebody gave me a single screen and said, you just have to work on the single screen. Would you like that? And the answer almost inevitably is, unless you really screw up the change management, of course I would. So I think anything that goes and finds stuff for me, alerts me to stuff, acts, Microsoft's language is co-pilot, but anything that acts as my support, sitting in the background, making my life easier, who wouldn't want that? So I think that if it's been sensitively deployed, it's plugged into relevant data, it's serving up relevant stuff, it's not getting in the way, it's not confusing me, it's not distracting me, everyone's going to be very happy with that.
I think on that positive note, we will leave it there. But thank you so much for your time today, Martin. And for anyone who wants to read the report, it's available to download now.